Okay, so this is an introduction to Orbit2D version 2. Now Orbit, as you'll have seen if you come via the website, is basically a kind of glorified multi-channel panner, but it's perhaps a fairly flexible one in that it accommodates multiple inputs and multiple outputs which can be positioned wherever you want them. Now there is another piece of software plugin which is very useful called Octogris or Octogris, which does a similar kind of thing. It gives you different plugins will give you either say 2-channel inputs and 8-channel outputs, or 8-channel inputs and 8-channel outputs, and you can position the inputs and outputs however you like. So in many ways Orbit is similar to that, but perhaps it offers a few extra bits and pieces which might be useful. You can try it out. It's downloadable from the website. So let's open it. Okay, now the first thing that comes up is a blank screen with a little dialogue asking you how many inputs and outputs you want. Well, sorry, how many outputs you want first of all. Now it may be that this, for whatever reason, may be this larger screen may come up before the smaller screen, in which case you won't be able to see the smaller screen and you might wonder what's going on. The smaller one, the dialogue should still be there, so you just need to do an expose and bring it to the front, and then you can specify the number of channels you want, up to, well in fact you could have more than 50. I've got 50 on here, but you could have I think up to 64. So I might change that in a later version. Yeah, that's something I should say. This is very much kind of between alpha and beta versions, so there may well be little problems that you might encounter, in which case I'd be very grateful if you could let me know. But maybe I'll say a bit more about that in a bit. Anyway, I'll choose 8 channels for my output, and I can choose whether to send it to the DAC or to another patch within MaxMSP. If you do that, you can choose, or you can send it to a series of well, it sends it to a series of send objects, which can then be picked up by some receive objects in a different patch. But I'll send it to the DAC for now, so OK that. And then a second dialog pops up asking you how many input channels you want for unit 1. So you can have several units within Orbit with different numbers of input channels to them. They can all be sent to the output array. But I will choose, well, I'll choose 8 input again, and maybe when I make another one in a minute I will choose a different number of inputs. An input source, I can choose a sound file. I can choose to have it directly from my ADC input, so microphone or line, or from, again, another MaxMSP patch, in which case you would need to use some send objects within that patch, and this one receives them on some specified inputs, which, well, I'll show you in a bit. For the moment, though, I'll choose sound file input, and OK that. And it builds the patch for you, so I'm using a lot of scripting in this. And so just to have a look at the interface, obviously this is you'll need to turn audio on in order to make this work, so I'll do that first. And then you have a series of channels represented here. These are obviously your speaker outputs, and you can, depending on which or how many channels you've chosen as your output, you can change how they are configured. So you can either do that by clicking on this drop-down list here, in which case there are a series of options that you can choose from. So I could choose Circle 8, which is a kind of sort of stereo pair 8-channel setup, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or you could choose, I've got double diamond there, and the channel numbering may not be quite what you want. So there is a way, although you can't save presets with Orbit yet, there is a way to write in a series of coordinates to a text document which Orbit will read, so you can have those. So you can essentially generate presets, but you have to do that from outside the patch. But again, I'll show you that in a bit. Double diamond, I've shown you. Corridor, so you can set them up however you like. I'll put it into circle 8, or you can actually click on the speakers and move them. So if I click on edit here, then and I click on a particular speaker, then it will move it to wherever I want it to be. So that could be quite handy. Anyway, for now I will choose circle 8 again. I'll show you attenuation in a bit. That's just a bit of a gimmick, really. And then you've got level meters for your 8 channels. Again, these aren't the kind of max ones. I've generated them using panels. But these, obviously there will be as many of those as you need in terms of channels. A level control here and a record function down here. So that's your main kind of Orbit output interface, and then you have your Orbit unit. So this is the input component, and here, because I've chosen a sound file input, then you obviously have a drag and drop interface with a playback and looping functionality there, along with your input channel meters and a volume control. And then you have a series of controls which are inherited from the original version of Orbit and operate in much the same way. So let's drag in an 8-channel file. This one will do. And so I can play that one back, I hope. There we go. And obviously you're only hearing channels 1 and 2 at the moment because the others are invisible. Now that's playing back, but it's playing back from the centre, although it doesn't actually show that. Maybe again that's another little sort of visual bug, I suppose, at the moment, but it's no big deal. We can turn the channel on from here, and we have a representation of the input channels. Now I've actually this file operates according to this setup, so the sort of double stereo pair thing. So I would choose from here the input configuration, channel configuration, and if I increase the amplitude of that circle, if you like, then obviously they're now being spatialized to the appropriate outputs. And I can rotate the whole lot, just as I could with the original Orbit. Incidentally, if you want to send any of these controls back to their default positions, press Alt and click on them, and they will pop back to the default positions. And amplitude will pop back to 0. Collapse allows you to collapse the whole lot. Again, this is exactly the same as the original Orbit. So it becomes a worm as opposed to a kind of disc. And in this one, the ovalizing control has been improved so that it actually ovals consistently for horizontal and vertical. The other one, it was a bit dodgy.